Hey everyone, Mtashed here, and I'm sure many of you are going to be new to the game Destiny 2, and you have no idea what weapon to pick going into it. There's auto rifles, there's pulse rifles, scout rifles, and hand cannons, and you have no idea what is your best option or how to deck out your loadout going into Destiny 2. So let's talk about it. I'm personally a hand cannon and pulse rifle kind of guy. If I'm really feeling like I need something long range, I'll throw in a scout rifle. But to you, you might not know what this really means. So I want to break down the archetypes of weapons and give you a quick breakdown of what you might want to pick or what you might want to think about going into your strikes, going into the raid, going into PvP. So let's just jump right into it. Auto rifles are popular among many players because they're quite easy to use. If you just want to sit there and relax, kill some enemies, and throw a bunch of bullets their way, auto rifles are for you. In some situations, like with the Sweet Business, you might have 100 bullets in your clip that you can throw towards the enemy without even having to reload. They are destructive if you can land your shots. They can do some pretty solid damage in PvP and PvE, but they lack precision. And unfortunately, at a distance, auto rifles tend to fall off. If you have something like a scout rifle at this distance, you might actually do 3/4 to almost full damage. At that same distance, your auto rifle wouldn't even damage them. It wouldn't even tickle them. So there are situations in a mission such as a strike or a PvE mission, or even on some larger maps, where an auto rifle will not do enough damage for you to compete. If you're going up against someone who's using a pulse rifle or a scout rifle, at a distance, you are dead. No chance, no way, no how. So now you might be thinking, well, at least up close, the auto rifle is going to be an amazing choice. And while yes, it is much, much better up close, it isn't always your best option still. Someone with an SMG might be outdueling you, and if someone's got some dirty hand cannon aim, they're probably going to beat you as well. So you might be questioning, well, why the hell would I use an auto rifle? And the answer is, well, optimally you wouldn't. In most situations, auto rifles are not your best choice. There are some damn good ones. They can be effective. But if you look at the grand scheme of things, if you're looking at how many headshots you're landing over the course of a raid or a strike or even a PvP game, auto rifles are just average. They're average up close, they're average at a medium distance, and they fall off at a longer range. But because you have a kinetic and an energy weapon, you could have a scout rifle and a hand cannon, and then you've got a great long-range weapon and a great up-close weapon. So you put yourself in a situation where auto rifles just aren't that great overall. If you find a good one, use it. But I definitely would recommend switching to one of the other weapons that I'm about to recommend, aka the hand cannon. Now, if you want something that's good up close and medium range, I would personally opt to get the hand cannon, especially in PvE. If you're doing missions, hand cannons more often than not are going to be a great choice for you. They provide a lot of impact, so every time you pull that trigger, you're doing a lot of damage. This means weaker enemies like a Scion only takes one shot to the head to kill it. Your commitment time to that fight is abysmal because all you have to do is pull that trigger once and that thing is dead, more often than not. Now, do hand cannons suck at range? Sometimes they do. If your aim is solid, sometimes you can get away with them at a medium to long range, but for the most part, your hand cannon is going to be your up-close slayer, especially in PvP. It is one of the best dueling weapons in PvP, but it's also one of the best PvE weapons. But you need to understand your range. You can't be trying to snipe people across the map with this, and that's why I will recommend my next weapon, the trusty old pulse rifle. Now, for someone like myself that plays way more PvP than doing strikes and missions and raids and all these things, I like the pulse rifle. It's kind of the in-between of the hand cannon and the scout rifle. It has some definite extended range compared to the hand cannon, but at a huge distance, it does start to fall off unlike the scout. Now, if you get caught off guard and you're in the middle of a close-range duel, you run out of ammo and you have to switch to your pulse rifle, it can still hold its own up close, but it's a little bit harder to aim than the hand cannon when you're closing the gap on an opponent. Personally, I like the pulse rifle / hand cannon combo for PvP. I think it's the strongest in my opinion, but for PvE, I have to give that to the hand cannon scout rifle combo. The scout rifle is like a hand cannon. It shoots one round and it does a ton of damage, but at a much extended range. Up close, they can be finicky and weird to use. I'm not a fan of the scout up close. That's why I have the hand cannon. But when you see an enemy trying to snipe you at a distance, having that scout rifle as your energy or kinetic weapon is very nice. It helps out a lot with dealing with some of the Scion snipers and things like that in the missions. I definitely recommend if you're going into PVE, start looking for a scout rifle that can do some solid damage. It has an energy type that you enjoy, or whatever it might be, and then pair it up with a hand cannon. You've got something up close, you've got something at a distance, and you can take it into PvP if you want. I personally would play more of a defensive role if you're using a scout rifle in PvP, because they tend to not be the best duelist weapon in the game. In most situations, the maps are small enough that a pulse rifle will out-duel you, and the scout rifle just doesn't have a lot of, I guess, opportunities to succeed in PvP. But PvE, it's a damn monster. It's a damn monster! Now, I'm going to quickly touch on the SMGs. As I said before, they are really good at dueling up close. It's like an auto rifle on steroids up close. They don't have the most aim assist, like they have some pretty big kick on them, and I find you're going to miss more crits than you're going to land in a lot of situations. So while the SMG can melt people in PvP, sometimes I feel like I miss more shots than I land. And that's just because I suck at the game. But when you're trying to take out a boss in a strike, if you keep missing shots or not landing that critical damage, the SMG can feel a bit underwhelming. Now, let's talk about the sidearm. Please don't use them right now. I don't know if they're going to change them, but from everything we've tested so far, sidearms are pretty average. I'm just going to be straight up with you. Sidearms right now are super, super weak. In almost every situation, there's just not a lot of value to them, okay? Just trust me on it, okay? So that covers most of the big stuff. You know, the auto rifles, the scout, the pulse, hand cannon, all these things. These are kind of like the main things you're going to be dealing with in the majority of your gameplay. But there's also the heavy weapons. That's the fusion rifle, the shotgun, the grenade launcher, the rocket launcher, the sniper. These are some huge damage-dealing weapons that play out very differently depending on your playstyle and depending on what map you're on and things like that. So I'm going to make a couple quick recommendations. So let's just make the recommendations. Okay, we're going to do it. The fusion rifle. The fusion rifle is fantastic. The fusion rifle is beautiful. The one we got to use in the beta was so strong in PvP, it was one of the best power weapons overall. It's pretty damn good at clearing out enemies in PvE, doing a strike, whatever it is, but fusion rifles, for the most part, unless there's some hidden gem out there I don't know about, they don't do critical damage. So you don't really get rewarded for aiming at the head. That being said, they do enough base damage that they'll kill almost every single red health bar enemy you even look at. If you just look at them with a fusion rifle, they're going to die. It's not a big deal. Yellow health bar enemies, orange health bar enemies, though, you might, run into some situations where they're going to take 2 or 3 shots, but still, not a big deal. Moving on to shotguns. Shotguns do a shit ton of damage, especially if you can land a crit up close. But you have to be extremely close for these things to work. The fusion rifle has a much more extended range than the shotgun, but if you can land those crits, a shotgun is going to melt enemies. You also run into the situation with shotguns where large strike bosses may have an auto-kill kind of melee ability. If that's the case, shotguns are very risky to use, and in most situations, you can't use a shotgun effectively on many strike bosses or raid bosses. You'll just die if you get up close with them, and so you're going to need to move on to a different alternative. I think shotguns still have a place, but I personally think that shotguns are more geared towards PvP in a lot of situations, and very unique PvE situations, if that makes any sense. Now let's talk about the sniper rifle. The sniper rifle is the long-range king. It is one of the highest damage dealers if you're landing your headshots, but it can be very underwhelming if you're not. It also is quite annoying to use if enemies are constantly strafing or running around and hiding behind shit. So, if you have an enemy that you're trying to fight that is constantly on the move, the sniper rifle can be very frustrating to use against them. You just won't land enough crits for it to be worth it. In PvP, it is a tougher weapon to use. It's definitely harder to use than many of the other weapons, but using it defensively to hold down an area can be one of the best ways to keep your enemies at a distance. If you're playing control, you're holding down the B zone and you've got a crispy snipe, then you might just do some damage with it. But if you're sliding in around corners trying to take people's heads off, if you're a rookie, you're going to have a tough time. It's definitely not going to be easy to get kills early on. Now, the big boomers, the rocket launcher and the grenade launcher. I lump these weapons in similar to the auto rifle. They're pretty good at times, but they're very kind of average overall. They can't crit, and while they do nice AoE damage, there's some situations where they just kind of suck. If you've got a bunch of very tanky enemies, Unless they're clumped up together, you're going to feel very underwhelmed by the damage of most rocket launchers and grenade launchers. Are there some good ones out there? Absolutely. But I'm just kind of letting you know that most rocket launchers and grenade launchers are for clearing out a bunch of red health bar enemies, killing them in one rocket. If you have to start sending 2 rockets towards one enemy to kill it, you run into some situations where it just isn't really cost effective for the amount of heavy ammo that you're using. I personally think there's going to be some dirty, amazing exotics that are rocket launchers or grenade launchers. We just haven't seen them yet. But in Destiny 1, there was only really one that you wanted to use at all times, and that was the Gallahorn. And it doesn't seem like it's returning. Maybe it is returning. I don't know. I don't want to spoil anything. I've got no clue. But the rocket launchers and grenade launchers are just kind of meh in a lot of situations. Finally, the sword. The sword is kind of like a shotgun. It does a ton of damage up close. In some situations, it's one of the best damage dealers, but you have to be right up on top of an enemy to kill it. So, if you're going up against a strike boss, you risk taking, a one-shot kill, things like that. In the raid, maybe you can get one-shot kill. I don't have all the details, but I'm letting you know right now, it is a risk versus reward weapon. If you know you can get in up close and do some damage, that sword is going to be fantastic. But if you keep dying trying to do some damage, well, you're not helping anyone. That's pretty much it for the video. As a little recap, going into PvP, I recommend a hand cannon and pulse rifle. If you're going into PvE, a hand cannon and a scout rifle. But there are a ton of weapons in this game, some we've never tested, some we've never seen. You might just be surprised at what's good going into Destiny 2. If you're new to the game and this helped you out, thank you so much for watching and hopefully you enjoyed. Make sure to subscribe for more and I will post more videos. So yeah, subscribe. If you're a veteran and this didn't help you, well, I'm sorry. I tried my best. That's it from me, and I'll see you soon, my friends. Bye-bye.